The Yomawari series began on the PlayStation Vita and on Steam when the first game, Night Alone, released back in 2015 via Nippon Ichi. That first game, an isometric survival horror with deceivingly cute visuals, was followed up by a sequel, Midnight Shadows, in 2017 for the PS4, Windows and again the Vita, and these two games were bundled together as the Long Night collection, which released on the Switch in 2018. Now a third game has just released called Lost in the Dark, and again one of its destinations will be Nintendo's hybrid system. Is it worth getting lost for, or is it going to be a long night? Well, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. In terms of the story for this new entry, you play as a young girl who is seen early on being the victim of bullying whilst at school. After escaping to the sanctuary of the school roof, she blacks out and awakens in a strange place. A mysterious figure informs her that she has been cursed and that the only way to remove it is to search for her lost memories scattered about her hometown. She must do this before 6 AM tomorrow morning or the curse will become permanent. So gameplay wise, Yomawari Lost in the Dark is very similar to its predecessors. You'll need to make your way around the town, which is displayed from an isometric viewpoint as you attempt to find your lost memories. You will make your way around the town with your map displaying more of the landmarks and passages as you discover them, and the streets are a dangerous place with a number of spirits wandering around, and should they spot you, you will need to evade them, as if they catch you, you will be killed. In order to prevent this, you'll need to use a number of defensive measures, such as turning off your torch, running done by holding down the R button, tiptoeing done by holding down the L button, or closing your eyes by holding both ZL and ZR, as some spirits can only attack by making eye contact. As with the previous games, your heartbeat will increase as spirits get closer, giving you visual and audio cues as to what's around you. You'll find items as you move around, some consumables such as pebbles you can throw to distract spirits, or coins you can offer to the Jizo statues in order to save your game, but there are also collectible items and notes to find, some of which will give you hints about how to access certain areas or how to avoid capture by particularly powerful spirits, and on top of this, some of the items you come across will stir a memory inside you, leading to a new objective to go and investigate an area that resonates with you when holding this item, as this may be where one of your memories can be found. Searching for this new landmark and reclaiming that memory will then move the story along. What's quite interesting is that although you will come across street maps as you play, finding one does not update your partially filled out map to a full version, as is almost video game lore. Instead, you'll need to take stock of where you are and the general direction you are needing to go, checking again as you get to another street map later into your journey. Strictly from a gameplay perspective, this didn't always work, as it could be a little frustrating to lose your bearings and not be able to rely on your map fully, but in spite of this, I felt it was a great change of pace and made for an interesting gameplay quirk. Plus, you can always use the Switch's screenshot feature if you want to keep an image of the map to hand. Also, you can fast travel to any of the Jizo statues that you have unlocked thus far, which makes navigation a little more streamlined. Like its predecessors, the action can feel a little plodding at times. The slow movement of your character, even when running, which is also restricted by a stamina bar, and a slow start due to a few expositional moments, does mean that the first hour can feel slightly tedious. Another slight gripe is how regularly some of the bigger spirits will show up, especially when you are having to carry something to a point of interest. This leads to you having to drop the item and run before returning to it once they've passed, knowing you'll probably have to do it again in a few steps' time. A minor issue, but again just weighs the game's pace down a notch too far. That being said though, once you start getting to some of the locations and searching for your memories, things do pick up, as these areas almost act like mini dungeons of sorts, including spirits to avoid as well as puzzles to solve based on clues found within notes. There is a boss of some description as you get to the core of the location, and overcoming them in whichever way needed will see your memory return to you, and for me, these creepy locations were the highlight of the game. I do have one final gripe though that does relate to these areas, probably my biggest of the few mentioned, and that relates to how many times you will need to solve a puzzle or run a gauntlet of spirits in a sequential fashion, with one wrong move resulting in you having to start the sequence again, either due to death or due to being transported back to the start. Whilst these sections are clever in their own way, having you use clues to get through, they also use the tired trope of making you repeat the parts you can do quite easily just to have a chance at a bit you haven't fully figured out yet, failing and having to do all the other bits again. These are frustrating at the time, I must admit, but once you get past them, the game's general fun factor does alleviate these to an extent. Yomawari Lost in the Dark does start slow, but once the game gets going and the atmosphere begins to fully kick in, it really can become quite gripping. A few frustrating parts here and there do bring it down a touch, but gameplay gets 16 out of 20. Controls work pretty well, although the run could have done with being a little quicker, and the inventory screen is a little messy to navigate, but on the whole they get 15 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, again Lost in the Dark is very similar to the previous two games in the series, all the way from the cutesy character models, to the spirits, the town design, even the childlike map which looks to have been drawn out of crayon. Newcomers to the series won't have an issue here of course, but having played all three games, a little more variety would have been appreciated from my perspective. That being said, what is here does look lovely at times, with a good use of reds and purples to visualise the close proximity of spirits, and a clean hand-drawn art style with that bizarre juxtaposition of cute and creepy working very well. Personally, I feel as if some of the spirits could have been better designed, not necessarily in terms of their look, but the way they appear on screen or the way they move, as sometimes this does take away that scare factor, and most of the scares do actually come from the chase sequences or the set pieces and the accompanying cutscenes. When it comes to the audio, the game implores you via an early message to play using headphones, and I can most certainly see why. Most of the sounds are provided by ambience, and it is very easy to miss the intricacies of what they bring to proceedings when playing on a big screen. The footsteps, the high-pitched buzzing of the cicadas, the rustling of leaves as you walk along, the clanking of the pipes, all perfectly normal everyday sounds that become a very unsettling ensemble when the lights are out and headphones are being used. Sound is also crucial in terms of knowing how close enemies are by the frequency of the heartbeat as mentioned earlier, and there are some great setups such as hearing a very eerie weeping sound in the near distance moments after reading a story of a crying ghost that lives in the school bathroom. There is a small semblance of a score, including some very nice melancholic piano music, but I do feel that maybe a little more music, just used every so often, would have given a bit more balance to those ambient sounds despite how well they are used. Visuals look clean, and there is some creepy imagery spliced into the cutesy theme, and they score 17 out of 20. Audio is integral to the game, although a more frequent score may have just complemented the ambience at times. It gets 18 out of 20. Yomawari Lost in the Dark costs £35.99 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. As well as these eShop pricings, there is a physical version available, a collector's edition in fact, which comes with a mini art book and a digital soundtrack, and is currently going for about £4 or £5 more than this digital version. If the physical of the Long Night collection is anything to go by, it might not be as easily accessible forever, so collectors may need to keep this in mind. Whilst I feel the game is very well constructed and was a good amount of fun to play, especially with all the lights off and the headphones in handheld mode, apart from the new feature of being able to shut your eyes and the ability to slightly customise your character with a new hairstyle and outfit, it is very similar to the games that came before it. Still a very polished game, but I do feel that this makes it a little harder to fully recommend at the current price. A tough one to score, but value gets 12 out of 20. To conclude, Yomawari Lost in the Dark takes its tried and tested formula, adds a couple of new features and executes it again to a good level of success. This is a double-edged sword though, as whilst for the most part this formula works and the eye closing mechanic leads nicely into the gameplay at times, there's very little else new here and a few of the previous wrinkles could have been ironed out this time round. Judging it on its own merits though, it's still definitely worth playing, especially as Halloween is once again upon us. Yomawari Lost in the Dark gets a SwitchUp score of 78%. Thank you everybody for watching this review, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credits, pick this game up or anything else for that matter, you can do so via our website switchup.gg. You can get yourself 10% off of an order by using the code SwitchUp, link in the top pinned comment, and there's also a link down there to Play Asia where you can get yourself 5% off of an order from there. Again, use the link and use the code stated. A quick thank you to our Patreons as always for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.